So this is how to not get crushed by pressure. Let's jump right in. First is you actually want to remove the wrong kind of pressures that are in your life. Because not all pressures are bad, there's some pressure that you just really don't need in your life. Like for instance, if you don't look absolutely shredded, you don't need to beat yourself up over it. It's not really like a bad goal to have, but you're making your mind more anxious than it has to be. And to always look that shredded, that's actually not that healthy either. So these are kind of like the pressures I'm saying that you need to consciously remove from your life. And this is the same for your financial goals and of course politics. As a general rule of thumb, if adding more pressure doesn't actually change anything for you, then you don't really need it. And then once you actually cut out all these useless pressures, when the most important like big stuff comes along, you can actually have the capacity to handle it. You can almost say this is kind of like pressure management. If you're looking to become a man that knows their way around the world, hit that subscribe button. Next is you have to learn to reframe pressure. If you start to feel really insecure because you see all your friends traveling to a bunch of fun places, you need to reframe the pressure in such a way that it becomes a positive pressure for you. Like if all your friends are out having fun, that means you have more time to get ahead of them in your career. Or that you have more money to save or spend on something else than if you did go. Can you see how the situation didn't really change, but the way that you feel about the situation changed a little bit? And then the pressure from before, instead of it being really disappointing, now it kind of motivates you a little bit. This is what reframing pressure does for you. You're changing the way that you see it. You have to practice doing this as much as you can. Next is don't isolate yourself more. If you can't handle pressure, people usually try to avoid it even more, and then they end up becoming even more sensitive to it. This isn't exactly like the perfect example, but will do. Think of it like caffeine. If you drink coffee from like time to time, you will feel the effects of caffeine. However, if you cut it out completely, then you come back to it, it hits you really hard because you haven't adjusted anything to it. And your tolerance for caffeine is just gone. This is the same thing with pressure. If you want to handle it better, the solution is not to cut it out. The solution is to gradually build a tolerance for it. You want to handle it like caffeine. Use it to your advantage. Last is you have to practice at game speed. This is the concept in sports where if you practice at the same intensity as it is in real games, and then when the real game comes, it's actually easier. But how can you create this with pressure? You have to learn to create it for yourself from time to time. Some of the ways that you can practice creating pressure for yourself is to set deadlines for yourself. Like, I'm going to finish this book within a month, or I'm going to do this within an hour. Practice putting yourself under a time constraint to get used to the pacing and the planning. And then slowly get yourself more used to being comfortable in these kind of situations. So then when you're actually under pressure at like work, people giving you projects, you're not like panicking and like losing everything. Because you have already trained yourself hundreds of times on how to think under pressure. Yeah, if you have any other tips that you want to share about pressure, feel free to leave it down in the comments down below and I will talk to you in my next video.